Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Invictus Racing League No Assist Championship. Yes, we are back. It's season 7, and we're a pre-season. And tonight we are here at the USA, the Circuit of the Americas, held in Austin, Texas, since 2012. Of course, America has held a Grand Prix in several locations around the country. Austin, the latest iteration of that, having been to Indianapolis, Phoenix, Watkins Glen, Riverside and Sebring in the past. Of course, Detroit, Long Beach and Las Vegas each have held races in the history of Formula One. It's the first permanent circuit to host Formula One in the United States, having previously shared it with Indy and NASCAR, places like Watkins Glen. It's a 5.513 kilometre circuit. That's 3.42 miles, ninth longest circuit on the F1 calendar. 20 turns with a distance to turn one of about 280 metres up that steep incline. The longest straight, just under 1,100 metres. That's 0.67 of a mile on the approach to turn 12, where the cars will hit a top speed of 320 kilometres an hour. It's 199 miles an hour. They're doing full throttle for around 63% of the lap and around 54 gear changes over the lap. That's around 1,512 over the race distance for the guys tonight. And of course, my name is Gareth, otherwise known as Captain Stiff. You can find me on Tuesdays and Wednesdays in the Performance and the Equal Performance League. Tonight I am luckily joined by a multiple race winner in Invictus, and that is Sab. So good evening, Sab. Good to have you on board for commentary.
Thank you for having me. It's going to be good. It's my first time commentating. I'm looking forward to commentating on the No Assist League this season. I watched the many streams last season, and there were some fantastic battles. So it'd be great to get involved and see up close some of these great battles, what we potentially can have this coming season.
Absolutely, and as you can see, there's a lobby full of drivers waiting to hit the circuit tonight, and we've definitely got some returners, but we've got some new drivers in the league as well, because of course there are always spots going. So make sure, if you are interested in joining the league, this is pre-season, so we've still got 2 weeks of pre-season. We've got USA tonight and Hungary next week before we kick off the first round in Spain in 3 weeks time. So make sure you check out our website at invictusracingleague.com, where you can check out the sign up page and get yourself on the grid ready for the start of season 7. But looking down through the list, Sab, is there anyone in the lobby that you see tonight that's potentially got a chance of maybe being the dark horse throughout the pre-season going into the season itself?
Based on last season, I particularly liked Scopefielder. He looked very strong towards the end of the season. Even though he was a tier 2 guy, he looked like he could really fight amongst the best in the league. I also think Dalanger is a good, solid driver, and he's really up there. But I still think you've got to battle with Speed Queen. Speed Queen proved once again last season how good she is, and she's going to be the benchmark coming into pre-season and the start of the season ahead in Spain.
Absolutely. Speed Queen taking her third Invictus Racing League No Assist Championship last season out. She took 91 points over the season, beating out Scopefielder by, I believe he was on 84. So yeah, Scopefielder just coming up short, having taken 2 wins at the end of last season. So Scopefielder ending the season on a high. So as you say, definitely one to watch going into the season. And in fact, he dominated the race in the USA in round 11 last year. So Scopefielder definitely won in the Renault. You can see tonight. So the car's actually running equal performance tonight. So whereas during the season these guys will be running performance and realistic to performance performance, there we go, there's the word. These guys running equal performance tonight to make sure the admins can make sure they've got the correct pace given once we get into the start of the season in round 1. And guys, if you are watching the stream tonight, if you want to see anything, you want to chat about anything, drop a comment into the chat. We're more than happy to get engaged and getting you talking. It's good to have people back watching the streams once again. It's good to be back on track. But Sab, going through some of the newer drivers, of course, we've got the teams of Scott and Joel. Unfortunately, Joel won't be joining us tonight, but boy better know that Scott, he's hopefully joining us this evening. It looks like he's still yet to join the lobby. We've got a new team of Nismac 7 and Gavpig joining the lobby or joining the league for the first time. A team of Humbo Stone and Renner 9. Renner 9 unfortunately missing out tonight. You've got Rick WR88 and Nikki 9095, both race winners in the past. And then you've got a strong partnership of Sergeant 009 and Stifler 1980, both rejoining the league after some time away. Then you've got one of the men you say to look out for, De Lange. He's in the constructor the current constructors champions, De Lange and Scopefielder, teaming up once again. You've got Speed Queen 80 will be teaming with Mike this season, so Mike definitely looking to maybe learn a little bit off of his teammate this season. Tony Wise teaming up with SJD 1988. Mero D2 will be with new driver Onyx Mer, and Rusland 000 in the Sauber tonight is currently unpartnered, but he, like I said, if you want to get in the league and partner up with some of these guys, make sure you check out the sign up page on our website. Is there any team out of the ones I've just said that you think possibly can make a run for the constructors?
I can't look past Scofield and De Lange. I picked them out earlier, but as constructors, they are a very, very strong team. It's going to be tough because there's some really strong drivers out there and some new guys who, to be honest, I don't know much about. It'd be interesting to see how well they go this season. But for me, them two, Scope and De Lange, are the guys to beat this season. They proved they're consistent and race winners. So if they can do that again this season, I can't see why they can't win the constructors again.
Absolutely. Of course, De Lange taking a debut victory, no assists in Belgium last year, I believe it was, and Schofield taking 3 victories over the season. So, as you say, definitely 2 to watch out for. I tend to think that Scott, that's Boy Better Know SB, and Joel V520, both a very strong partnership between the two, both very consistent drivers. So, definitely some drivers to watch out for. And what's your opinions on the Circuit of America's track? Is it one that you favour, one you don't favour? How do you find yourself going around it?
I'll be honest, I struggled around here in Performance League 2 last season. I always found turns 3, 4, 5 and 6, the Silverstone style part of the circuit, to be really tricky. If you get that wrong, you can lose a lot of time or you can invalidate your lap. It's you've got to nail that section, I think, in order to get a good lap for qualifying, and you can easily pick up penalties and stuff like that if you're not careful around this track. So it is a tricky track, but it is a good track for overtakes, especially down that long straight down the back. I think it's a great race to watch on stream and stuff like that. It does provide good races, so it's got a mixture of everything, this track, hasn't it? But for me, from my personal point of view, I find it frustrating as hell.
You do find yourself going through that first section. It's very much, as you say, like the Silverstone section. Of course, it was designed by famous circuit designer Herman Tilke, who used tracks around the world as inspiration. So you do have the section in Sector 1, much like Maggots and Beckett's from Silverstone. And equally, you have that very long turn towards the end of the lap, which is meant to emulate the turn 8 at Istanbul. So it's definitely a track that borrows a lot of corners from around the world, and it's, as you say, you have to be incredibly precise through Sector 1. You can find yourself in qualifying invalidating laps, and equally in the race you find yourself coming up with some time penalties. The corners are very interlinked. I find it much like the first sector in Suzuka, whereas it's just continuous left, right, and it feels like it's going on forever. And equally, you can find yourself following someone really struggling in the dirty hair behind.
Yeah, I totally agree. What my plan was, because I struggled so much in that first sector, similar, like you say, to Japan. What I tend to do is I took a little bit of speed off, just so I know I was getting through there without causing myself any penalties or invalidating laps or anything like that, because I'd rather sacrifice a little bit of time if I know I can get through without any penalties. Because if you can get through a race without picking penalties up, and you're around people who do pick penalties up, you can easily make places up like that. So it's a fine balance. Some people who I've raced with find that section no problem at all, but for me, I'd rather just take a little bit off, just so I know I'm nailing it more consistently. Because if you try and push too hard throughout all the time, it's more likely to make mistakes as the race goes on.
Absolutely. And It's one of, as you can see, the guys starting to ready up here, so we'll be going to qualifying. Of course, it's an 18-minute qualifying session, 50% race for these guys tonight, so we will be running on clear weather for tonight, just to make sure the admins can get the right data moving through pre-season into season 1, but we will be moving on to dynamic, of course, as the season starts. But looks like everyone's readying up. We've currently got 14 drivers in the lobby. Will go down. Looks like we might be missing Scott at the moment, but hopefully he'll be able to. Oh no, there he is, right at the top. Just missed him. But yeah, quite a high maximum downforce circuit around here. You tend to find, because you do need that grip around, especially around the first sector. But you kind of need to look out for how you set up the car. I'm sure you'll agree that you don't want to lose too much speed down that back straight into towards turn 12, but you really don't want to sort of give yourself a disadvantage going through sector 1, because that's where you'll lose and make any time, but having that right setup through the sweeping corners.
Yeah, I totally agree. I found myself, when I was practicing for this race, I put too much wing on, front and rear, and going down that back straight, I was just getting swamped all the time by the people I was practicing with, and it was great through the first sector and the final sector. You were making loads of time up, but if you're losing time down that back straight, especially if someone's got DRS on you, you've got no chance of defending against them. So you've got to try and balance it out. So you've got that bit of speed, but also the grip through the tricky, twisty sections as well. It's difficult to balance out.
Absolutely. So the guys here currently, as you can see, are sitting on the ultra soft tyre. That will be the quickest tyre they're using in the qualifying session. Of course, we'll see if anyone decides to go for a slightly different strategy choice and possibly put on the soft compound tyres. As you see, Mike and Ruslan 000 there putting on the yellows already. Just seeing what pace they can get out on the hardest compounded tyre. No one yet to make their way out of the pit lane. Of course, you want to be the first one out there. You set that initial banker time, but the track will rubber in and become a little bit less green as the session goes on. So expect the times to fall as we see the first person out on track. Looks like it's a Force India, so it looks like it possibly might be Rick WR88. No, it's not.
No.
It's
Boy Better Know.
It's Boy Better Know SB. So that's Scott, who's the first one out on track on the ultra soft tyres. As we see here, Scott just making his way through sector 1. Will go on board with the Force India, going around the first out lap of the pre-season here. As you can see, switching right to left. And one of the interesting things about this first sector is each corner from the initial entry into turn 3, you actually lose more and more time. So you scrub time off through turn 3 eventually once you get into turn 9, so you end up losing more and more speed. So it's really down to precision and equally not lighting up the rear tyres. You see Scott weaving side to side, trying to get some life into those ultras by the end of the lap.
Yeah, Ruslan was just had a bit of a moment coming out of that first sector, but I think it's just probably down to cold tyres and just on the opening lap. But it looks like he may be trying to go for a first run on the soft tyres. I don't know if it might just be like a banker lap, what you were alluding to earlier.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see these guys, as you've got Ruslan, Humberstone and Mike out there on the soft compounded tyres, whether they set a relatively competitive lap. Of course, if you're planning on trying to stretch those softs into possibly hitting the top 10, seeing as there are only 14 drivers on the grid tonight, you've really got to make sure you don't invalidate that lap. You want to keep them as fresh as possible when it comes to the race. You don't want to end up in a 9th or a 10th position on possibly a set of softs that have done 2 or 3 laps extra than what they really need to.
Yeah, I totally agree. I see. For me, I wouldn't know whether to go with the ultras or the supers on this qualifying, because me personally, I cannot make tyres last to save my life. So with the ultras, they might be the quickest time for qualifying, but you could be coming into the race lap 7 or 8 and they're absolutely screaming at you and you need to come off them quickly, whereas the supers, you might sacrifice in the qualifying a little bit, but you could gain more in race trim. So it's difficult. It depends what you're confident in, I think, and what you can do on that tyre in qualifying.
Absolutely. I think we're expecting quite a competitive qualifying session by the looks of it at the moment. You see out there at the moment, it looks like 9, 10 drivers out on the ultra soft tyres. So 10 drivers will be looking to set the fastest, or their time on the fastest compound. So possibly going for a very short stint. As you say, the tyres around here, it's very hard to make them last. But we have seen in the past some guys, Stifler 1980, of course, is, I'm not sure if you've seen him before, he's very, very careful on his tyres and he does look after them very well as Scott's coming round to finish the lap and set the first timed lap of pre-season. He's going to come across the line. Looks like he's going to do about 32s. It's a 132.290 in the Force India.
It's a good start, that. I think it'll quite easily be beaten, but it's a good banker lap, that. It'll set the marker down for some of maybe the lesser quicker guys to see if they can beat.
Absolutely, as there you go. The second Force India is. Oh, we've got Sauber on the infield there on the exit of turn 13, I believe it was. So it looks like one of the Sauber guys, looks like might be Rusland 000, has lost it on the inside of turn 4, between turn 14 and turn 15 in the stadium section there.
Yeah, he looks like he's struggling a little bit on these tyres. I don't know if he's gonna go for another run. So. Maybe he's just trying to find some. Oh, he's going sideways around the final corner. Maybe he's struggling to get grip and tyre temperature into those tyres, or is it just his setup? I don't know. It looks like he's struggling at the minute.
Yeah, absolutely. Setup key around here. You saw Tony Y going a little bit wide there on the exit of turn 1, possibly just letting Humberstone and the McLaren past. Humberstone making his way through the first complex of sector 1 into turn 9 and turn 10. Here as he sweeps down towards turn 11, the short, or the quite almost hairpin like turn, braking from 179 miles an hour down to about 64, then stretch it all the way down that long run around 196 to 199 miles an hour. DRS assisted, the McLaren's making all the way down. Unfortunate for him, he's not getting any sort of assistance from drag from a car in front, so that would help you out a little bit, ever so slightly, but you can see the driver with the all black helmet there making his way now into the stadium section, turn of 13, 14, slightly off camber corner. Yeah, tends to catch out drivers, and he does lock up the front left tyre there ever so slightly. So Humberstone, equally a multiple race winner last season, one that was pushing Scopefielder all the way to the Tier 2 title, coming around the final 2 corners there, runs it ever so slightly wide there on the exit of turn 19, round turn 20. We'll see if that's compromised him at all, running slightly wide across the rumble strips of 20, and Humberstone does a 133.424 on the soft compounder tyre, so drops him into 6th position.
Yeah, it's that's the fastest time so far on the softs. I'm just watching Onyx at the minute. He's also on the softs. It's interesting that nobody at the minute is actually running on the super softs yet, whether you don't fancy that tyre. It's either ultras or softs. So I wonder if that's a strategy or are they just banker laps? I don't know.
Yeah, as you can see, Scopefielder, by the looks of it, has put on a set of super softs, currently sitting in the pit lane at the moment, making his way out shortly. He's currently sitting on a 133.142, so Scopefielder with a not the greatest lap for him. Of course, we've seen him go a lot quicker, but it's race pace that we know him for. He does tend to turn it on a little bit more when it comes to race time, so you've currently got a front row lockout of the Force Indias of Rick WR88 sitting on that 131.942, almost 0.3 of a second faster than Scott.
Yeah, we've currently. Oh, I'm not sure. Stifler, I think, is coming up now to his final. That's time's wrong. It says 4 minutes. That can't be right. Surely he must have gone wrong somewhere. He must be on another lap now because it's now reset. So Stifler has now started his lap on the ultra soft. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do in his McLaren. He's yet to set a time.
Absolutely, Stifler making his way now through the first sector. We'll see if he keeps it on the circuit. Nicely done there through the first 5 corners for Stifler 1980. You can hear him bouncing off the limiter there, not wanting to move, change up, giving himself as much drive off the slower corner. Runs out slightly wide there on the exit of turn 10, so possibly compromising his lap time when it comes to invalidation. Now down to the hairpin at turn 11. straightens the car up nicely, very easy. We've seen guys light up the rear tyres on the exit out of that corner. Of course, in F3 last season, you saw Tejoa unfortunately lighting up the rear tyres and putting it into a sideways car at the time. So we've seen drivers in the past, stiff, a big lock up there into turn 12. So bit of a scrappy lap, locking the right front once again there. So a bit of a scrappy lap for the McLaren driver so far.
Yeah, it is. It seems like he's struggling quite a bit at the minute. And he's just run a little wide again there. It's, like I say, it's a scruffy lap so far. We'll see where this will eventually put him as he comes through the final few corners now. And yeah, you should think it'd put him in the top 5, but we shall see in a second where it puts him. It puts him 5th. So yeah, top 5, but it's close from 5th up to 1st. It is really close.
I think what we've missed there is Onyx Mer, new driver, is currently in 4th position on 132.832.
I have missed that, yeah.
And it's on soft compound tyre at the moment. So Onyx Mer, unless he's now out, I may be completely wrong, and he may be now out on a set of softs, having set his time on its ultras, which seems more likely because 132.8 on softs would be a pretty fantastic time.
Yeah, that would.
I'm going to take a bet that he set that time on ultra softs. He is coming around. Yeah, he's pitting after being out on the soft compounded tyre. So we'll have to find out from Onyx, the Toro Rosso driver, whether he did set possibly the greatest lap of his life on those hardest compounded tyres, or if that was on the ultra softs. And just saying good evening to Lozak and Sarge in the comments tonight. Good to have you watching the stream, guys. Sarge, good to have you watching any of it, let alone here and there. Hopefully you can get yourself back on the grid. We need someone to take the fight to Speed Queen.
Yeah, as Rick's just now come back out, he's now on the super soft tyres, so it'll be interesting to see if he can go any quicker than what he's already set on the ultras earlier. We've still yet to have... as SJD has just gone completely off the track as I've gone over to him. Maybe he was moving out of the way, I'm not sure, but we've still yet to have times from 5 drivers so far with a mixture of tyres of ultras, supers and softs at the minute. So Speed Queen yet to set a time. Will she be coming out anytime soon? It'd be interesting to see.
Absolutely. One of the things that's been really impressive about Speed Queen, especially over last season, is that she wasn't amazingly fast during qualifying. Her qualifying pace was never really too impressive, but it's in the race that she really turned it on. Equally, like Scopefielder, she would often find herself starting in the top 5 towards top 10 positions and easily make the podium by the end of the race. So Speed Queen, always we see Tony Y really struggling on the exit of turn 19 there, currently sitting in 6th position as he looks to start a lap on the ultra soft tyres. But Tony Y really getting some life into those ultra soft tyres, possibly scrubbing off the best bit of their life. As we see a big lock up there into turn 1 for the Williams. Of course, it will be possibly the last time we see the Williams in the white and martini striped Rexona after seeing their almost tie-dye like livery today.
What is your opinion on that, may I ask?
I actually really like it. I think
really?
I think it's definitely new, it's different, which is always good to see.
It is different, that's for sure, especially compared to the Toro Rosso, which is just basically a copy and paste job of last year's car.
Very much so. Toro Rosso, I think.
I think the Williams would have to grow on me. At the minute, it looks like something a 5-year-old has done in art class. I'm not keen on it at all.
It definitely does look like the paint tool has been used in Microsoft Paint and sprayed across. But it's always good to see different things being added. Of course, we've got the black and gold Haas livery that'll be coming in next season as well. So good to see cars going for different colour schemes. As opposed to seeing the same thing over and over again. So perhaps it will grow on you. Yeah,
perhaps, but yeah, it's just one of those, you look at it and you think, oh, that's a bit of a shock on the eyes. Like I say, once the season starts and stuff, you get used to these liveries, don't you? And That's probably the best thing I can say about it, is I probably get used to it more than I like it.
And there's Tony Y there in that. Williams goes fourth, puts himself currently on the second row of the grid at 1:32.830 on 2 lap old ultras, so he actually set an extra lap on those ultras, so possibly it looks like he's going to struggle to get back in and out with enough time to get another set on. You don't really want to be starting on tyres any more worn than you really need to. You want to kind of just do that one flying lap and then carefully nurse them back to the pit lane. But Tony possibly starting on a set of tyres scrubbed a little bit more than what some of the others will be on.
Yeah, at the minute there's not much action on the track as Nismak has just come out on the super softs, but we're still yet to see times from 5 drivers. We should start to see them coming out within the next minute and a half or so. We still have a variety of different tyres out there, so the strategies are going to be interesting come the race.
Absolutely, as you see, almost a rainbow effect of colours across the tyre choices there. And as we see, Speed Queen yet to come out, Nikki 905 yet to come, Mike and Nismax out on track now. So Mike, we tend to know that he doesn't mind starting at the back, making his way through it. It means he gets to choose his strategy. Of course, the guys outside of the top 10 tonight will get to choose a brand new set of whatever tyre they want for the race, whereas the top 10 would be locked in to start on the tyres they set their fastest lap time on. So this is where you will see these guys out on the super soft tyres hoping to beat that banker lap, as we've got a car pointing in the wrong direction. It's Mike.
He's just lost it, yeah. I think he's collided with the wall as well, and he was just waiting for a few cars behind him to get past him before he pulled back out. But it looks like he's come out of the corner and the car's just lost it, and he definitely has hit the wall there. There's debris all over the side of the track, which is not good for him.
No, absolutely, and with 2 minutes 32 seconds left in the session, I believe that's probably it for Mike. He won't have time to get back to the pit lane, get some new tyres on, get that front wing changed and get back out. So Mike will currently be starting from the back row of the grid in 14th position, having set no time at the moment. Of course, we've got Nikki 995 and Speed Queen still in the pit lane with 2 minutes and 10 seconds left to go. Onyx Mer sets the fastest lap of 1:31.3. Absolutely superb lap from the Toro Rosso driver.
Wow. Yeah, that was on the super softs as well. It wasn't even on the ultras, so that is a mega quick time from him. He's just retired from the session as well, so he thinks it's good enough. We shall see in a few minutes' time whether it is or not. It's going to be interesting to see if any of the ultra soft running guys can beat that, because that is a mega fast time for a super soft tyre.
Absolutely. So super soft tyre setting that low 1:31.3. Onyx Mer retiring on track, which of course we do discourage because it can upset the rest of the lobby. Rick currently going on to set his flying lap on a set of super soft tyres. He set a 1:31.9 there, so Rick currently out trying to get back onto the top, whereas it kicks the rear end out coming out of turn 2 there. Mike retiring from the session, so Mike and Nikki will both be starting from the back row of the grid. Speed Queen's out on an out lap, hoping to get round in time to set that fastest lap, so Speed Queen really leaving it down to chance there out on the super soft tyres.
Yeah, because you only have to run wide or get an invalidated lap now, and you could be going from potentially top 5 pace to not even in the top 10, which might benefit her to be able to start on a tyre she wants to, but she'll have an awful lot of traffic to work through in the race, which would not be good for her. As you've got Boyd better know, he's about to come round. It's not a fast lap for him, so maybe he'll be going for another lap. No, that wasn't a fast lap for him, so it doesn't look like at the minute anybody's going to challenge Onyx.
No, he's got Rick coming around the stadium section now, entering into turn 15. He's currently going to be the next one that crosses the line by the looks of it. Force India coming around that long right-hander, 16, 17, 18, almost Istanbul-like turn into turn 19. Takes a little bit of time off. Looks like he might bail out that lap, and he does. So Rick bailing out of his last flying lap, realised he wasn't going to go any quicker. Scott currently going just under 0.2 of a second faster on the ultra soft tyres, so he will have the advantage of tyres compared to Onyx Mer in pole position at the moment. So Scott taking yes, you can see him diving behind the Renault, trying to get as much drag and as much slipstream as he can as he goes down the long straight in towards turn 12. So Scott definitely playing the experience game there, just trying to take as much as you can out of the track, get all the little advantages throughout the lap using cars that are going slower. But what you might do is get caught up in a little bit of dirty air behind the Williams here, going through turn 16, 17, 18. Keep it tight. He does nicely. Force India planted to the ground. It's going to come into turn 19. Scott doesn't run out wide. That's what you don't want to do. Of course, you don't want to invalidate it with one corner left to go, and he does come around the final corner. Scott's going to come across the line, really kicks the rear end out, and it's second. It's not fast enough. It's a 1:31.708, so he knocks Rick into third position, but it does mean that Scott will start currently on the front row of the grid.
Yeah, that's interesting, because now he's going to have to overtake Onyx in the race in order for those ultra soft tyres to have a play, because he needs to get ahead and build some sort of a lead before he comes into the pits, because Onyx is going to be able to stay out there for longer, and if Onyx can keep with him, then the strategy will be in his favour.
Absolutely, and I believe it was only 3 drivers there that in the top 7, I think it was, that set that time on the ultra soft tyre. So the super soft looked like it was the tyre to use in qualifying. We'll look to see if the guys outside of the top 10 decide to go for the softs, but there is your results for qualifying, and it's the Dutch driver Onyx Mer that sets pole position on his debut, 1:31.363 on the super soft tyres. Absolutely electric lap from here. It's Scott in second and Rick in third, the 2 Force Indias. The Langer is in fourth with Humbo Stone in fifth. Tony White is in sixth. SJD in seventh in the Renault. Stifler 1980 has got a 5 place grid penalty. He's in eighth, so he'll drop to 13th. Scopefielder is in ninth with Speed Queen joining him on row 5. Nismak in 11th with Rusland, and then behind him we've got Nicky and Mike. Unfortunately for Stifler, who's must have picked up a 5 place grid penalty, not even sure. Usually in qualified that comes through contact with another driver, so we'll have to find out from Stifler 1980 what it is that he upset the steward so much to give him that 5 place grid penalty.
Yeah, it's a bit strange. I didn't actually see what happened there, but it's not made his race any easier, has it? With that, it's going to have to definitely battle through some cars now. What tyre was it he qualified on?
I believe it was an ultra soft tyre as well. I believe it was.
Right, okay. So would that mean he has to start on them even though he's outside the top 10 now?
That's a good question, actually. I would tend to believe that I think it is, because he's still qualified within the top 10.
Yeah. So that's going to really compromise him then, being that far down with a used set of ultras, which he's probably going to have to come in within 7-8 laps, or if he can stretch him out any longer. So it's not going to be an easy race for him now.
It's very quick strategy call there from Onyx Mer there to get the session started. Obviously trying to possibly jump the gun a little bit, catch everyone else a little bit off guard there, setting up their strategy. So he will lead the guys around on this formation lap as they try and get a little bit of life and warmth into those brakes and those tyres. Of course, you've got to make that short run, that 280 metre run up the hill, 130 free elevation change between the final corner at turn 20 and the first corner at turn 1. The braking point comes just before the apex, and you can really throw it in there, but as we saw in last season's race, there's several different lines through there. We saw Stifler 1980 take a really different line compared to some of the other drivers, so there's definitely time to be found depending on who you are and what line you're taking, but they've got plenty of room to go into turn 1 on lap 1. It's 42 to 52 feet wide, this track here, built to accommodate several series of racing, so there's definitely room for these guys to go wheel to wheel, isn't there?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's tricky as well because it's uphill. You can be caught out if you brake late, and I've had contact a few times up there. It is easy to catch, even though it is so wide. It is easy to clip somebody up there because it's going uphill and you've got to time your braking ever so carefully. But there is, if you're starting further back, there is, I've found before, room to get round the outside and maybe take advantage of anybody who's caught up in any, if I can speak, caught up in any instances at the start to really take advantage. It's going to be interesting, that first run up.
Absolutely. Of course, we did see Scott, and that's boy better know he's currently in second position. He was spun around on the first corner of lap 1 in round 11 last season, dropped all the way back to the rear end of the grid and managed to fight back and take a second place finish. So we know Scott definitely enjoys this circuit around here. He practices a lot and does enjoy it. But so the guys really do have to be careful going into turn 1. But look at the back there, you see Speed Queen. She made it into the top 10. She's currently sitting in 9th position. So Speed Queen, she's got a lot of overtaking to do.
Yes, she definitely has. But like you say before, she's a race pace. This is where she's in her element, I think. And with her on the super soft tyres, if she can make some places up early on, I think she could be quite easily in the top 5.
So now we are waiting on Charlie Whiting. We've got 1 light, 2 light, 3, 4 and 5. And 5, let's start pre-season 1. Oh, we've got a jump start from Ruslan 000. He's going to move right through, try and get out of the way of everyone who comes through the middle. But everyone else gets away clearly. Oh, the force engine cuts right across the south there, but it's a clean run into the inside. A little bit of contact between the Red Bull and the McLaren. A little bit wide there for some of the guys. But it's a clean start for Onyx Mer and Scott, who first and second into turn 3, turn 4 and turn 5. Everyone else looks like we've got a clean getaway. No one pointing in the wrong direction just yet. But a very, very early start there from Ruslan 000, who do you think possibly a little bit of nerves played part there?
Possibly, yes. It is easy to do, especially if the lights stay on for a long time. It is easy to do. So rather do it now in pre-season, get it out of the way, than do it in league forms. And no, everybody seems, just watching at the back there, everyone seems to have got away fine, no instances, which is good to see.
Yeah, Tony Y getting all out of shape on the exit of turn 11 there. He kicked it real out. He's dropped a couple of positions. I think he's dropped from 4th down to 7th there, so just about keeping it in control. You can see him kick the rear end out of turn 11, and it really is the worst place you want to lose time. Oh, the Toro Rosso really throwing it down the inside of Speed Queen there, and Nikki just rattling the side of the Ferrari of Speed Queen 80, and that all unsettled both the Williams and the Ferrari. But Nikki moves up past Speed Queen there, but a little bit of a bold move for the Toro Rosso driver.
Yes, it is, but that I'm just looking at the data now. He's made 4 places up in the first lap, which is a very good start. If he keeps that up, he's going to look strong towards the end of this race.
It's an early stop for Stifler 1980, possibly contact into the first corner. We did see a McLaren come into contact with a Red Bull, but I believe that was Humbo Stone and De Lange that might have come to contact. SJD picks up a very early 3-second penalty.
Yeah, I've just watched him on the first corner. He got it completely wrong and cut the corner completely, lost loads of time and places. So yeah, I'm not surprised he got a 3-second penalty for that.
Looks like we might have a challenge for the lead. We've got Scott trying to go around the outside of Onyx Mer going into turn 11. Doesn't quite get it done, but he's going to be lined up right behind the Toro Rosso driver as we come down the back straight towards turn 12. Of course, DRS not available just yet, but you can see the rear end, or the camera pointing in the wrong direction. We want to see what's in front of us, and there we can as we get into the braking point, and Scott takes the lead from the Toro Rosso. Great move down the inside into turn 12.
And Nikki has now just overtaken Tony Y, and Speed Queen. There's a great battle here. Speed Queen has also now just taken Tony Y. There was 3 of them. Oh, they keep swapping places, and Tony Y has just gone onto the grass and lost another place to Nismak. It was a great battle down the back straight between Speed Queen, Tony Y and Nikki. Nikki made the move, and Speed Queen, seeing the door wide open, went for it as well. And there must have been contact between Tony Y and Speed Queen, because Tony Y has lost significant time and places since that's happened.
And the battle for lead still going on between these two, Onyx Mer and Scott. And Onyx Mer is going to go to the inside into turn one. Does he keep it down? Oh, it's a hard lock up. He's going to run wide. Natalis going to allow Scott to run back down, try and get the cut back on him. And they're going to go side by side down through. Who's going to go first in? You don't want to go side by side through here. The Toro Rosso just cuts in front of the Force India. Onyx Mer getting an absolutely superb move done around the outside of turn 16 through 18. Gave him the inside into turn 19. Scott got the cut back on him into turn 20, but Onyx Mer getting it done up the inside. Oh, a little bit of contact between the two, and Scott's going to go back up the inside, and these two still trading positions, but look at the train that's starting to form behind them.
Oh yes, this with DRS now enabled, this could be really interesting running down to the end of this back straight. We've got 1, 2, 3, there's like 6, 7 cars all fighting here with all DRS. We could hopefully not have any contact. Some great overtakes, late braking. See who can late brake. Oh, and the McLaren of Humberstone has just jumped into third place. Good move there from him.
Yeah, 3 wide down the back straight there, and Humberstone moving up or moving back into third position. Scott unfortunately didn't have DRS. He was behind, he was in front at the DRS line, so it meant that Onyx Mer had the position and DRS assistance going down the back straight. You can still see this battle here going on between Humberstone, Schofield and Delanger. Delanger dropping down to 5th place. Schofield has moved up into 4th, so it's a good start for the Renault driver.
Yes, it is. He's flying at the minute, Schofield. That's 4 places now he's made up, with Nicky not far behind Delanger as well. There's some really close racing. It's showing when we've got equal performance how close these guys can be.
Absolutely. And Scott is really struggling to keep that Force India in a straight line. He's out of the slow corners. He's really kicking the rear end out on these ultra soft tyres. It's really going to hamper him. Oh, Onyx Mer going majorly wide there across the corner. This means these two are going to go side by side, and Onyx Mer possibly hindering Scott's.
Sorry to interrupt. Nicky has just had a collision with Delanger, which has took him out of the race. There's a McLaren as well. Humberstone, he's also been caught up in that. Nicky was trying to make a move on, I can't see who it was now, but he ended up coming back onto the track and caught Delanger, which took him off the track, which I think Humberstone also got caught out on, which is, unfortunately for Humberstone, has dropped him right down the grid, down to the 13th now, and I think he also got damaged as well as Nicky, so they could be coming in for early pit stops for them too.
Yeah, and with 24 laps still left to run, that's a very early stop for these guys. Even the soft compound tyres is currently on board with Nismac 7 here in his debut race in pre-season, sitting behind Rick and Speed Queen. So he's definitely going to, if he wants to learn how to be pacey in the No Assist League, he's in the right position following these two. And the Force India having dropped back behind Speed Queen. Speed Queen, like I said, slow and steady. She's making her way up through the grid. She's moved up into 5th position, currently sitting just under a second behind Delanger, who's just under 3 seconds behind Schofielder. But the battle for the lead, Schofielder now starting to attack the rear end of Scott in 3rd position as he looks for a 2nd place finish.
Yeah, it's very close, these 3 now. What tyres though? So Boy Better Know really should is starting to look at getting the move done on Onyx if he really wants to make a dent on his challenge. But Schofield also on the super softs. He's also in a very strong position. I'd probably go with Schofield and Onyx are more the favourites at the minute for the race win, just because they're on the longer lasting tyre of the two. But it's I'd say at the minute it's between them 3. Delanger is about there. He's just keeping on tabs, but it's whether he can just hang on to it. He's slowly dropping back, which is unfortunate for him because it's allowing Speed Queen to catch up to the back of him. And Schofield has just taken Boy Better Know for 2nd place on his super soft tyres.
Yeah, it's almost a little bit of sitting duck syndrome there for Scott, and he's on old scrubbed ultra soft tyres that will be coming towards the end of their life. And with DRS assisted, it looked like the Renault is just going to fly past that Force India, and he's already starting to pull out a bit of a gap. He's already dropped him by about half a second. So Schofielder, we saw him take a dominant victory around here. We know how quick and how much he enjoys Kota, and Onyx Mur is going to have to start looking behind him, and he's not going to see a pink flash anymore. It looks like he's going to start seeing almost like the Hornet light, yellow and black of the Renault behind him pretty soon. It's a second gap, but we'll look to see if that comes down in the next lap or so.
Yeah, we will. It should be interesting. At the minute, Delanger is starting to form a little bit of a train behind him now. He's got Speed Queen less than a second behind him, with Nismak not far behind, and Rick also not far behind. So Delanger's going to have to hope he can hold these fast guys behind him, because he's going to be in trouble coming to the DRS zone if those two are still within a second of him.
Absolutely, it's currently 0.6 of a second. Speedqueen back to Delanger at the moment. Speedqueen is dragging Nismak 7 along with her. So the Ferrari driver at the moment, her eyes will be lighting up at the prospect of going toe to toe with Delanger 93 in the Red Bull. These two did have some good battles over the previous season, as we're here on board with Speedqueen sitting on the rear wing of the Ferrari, looking down. Delanger going defensive very early down the back straight, trying to break the toe. Speed Queen's going to look very late into the apex, and she gets the move done, possibly unside. I don't think Delanger was expecting that one at all. She really sent it at the last minute.
She did, yeah. Delanger also, he locked his tyres up slightly, so I don't know if that gave Speed Queen the encouragement to drop it in there, but it was a great move for her, and she's now up to 4th. Can she now go and attack Boy Better Know, who should be starting to suffer a little bit on his ultra soft tyres?
Yeah, I think Scott might be coming into the pit soon. He's really been dropped by the top two. And speaking about the top two, I'm sitting on board, and Scopefield is going to try and go around the outside into turn 1, and they're still side by side. Onyx taking a very tight line across the apex. And they've touched. And Onyx Mur has been put around. The Scopefielder and Onyx Mur touch, and unfortunately Onyx has been spun around, and it's really unfortunate for the debutant Dutch driver there. But Scopefielder currently still out. He is out there. He didn't pick up a penalty, so be interesting to see from Scopefielder's point of view. It looked like it was the slightest of touches between the two. They were going side by side through into turn 2. Really unfortunate there for the pole sitter.
Yeah, it really was. There was really not much in that from what I could see. There must have been the slightest of contact, and because of the speeds they're going through there, the slightest of contact was going to take him out, unfortunately for him, because he was having a fine race up until that point. Absolutely,
the two went side by side into turn 1, came through the exit turn 2 side by side, and it looked like they ever so slightly came into contact, and unfortunately at those speeds, like you say, you can't really do too much, and it was Toro Rosso that came off worse, and he was pointing in the wrong direction, and unfortunately leaves the session very quickly. I believe he probably possibly could have recovered from that, and it wasn't a he didn't look like he had any wing damage, so we'll have to see from Onyx's point of view afterwards what he thought was where the contact was there. And Scott is going to be the first one out of the top runners to come into the pit lane, and he does, so decides that enough is enough for those ultra soft tyres.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. He was getting dropped quite quickly. Speed Queen, she wasn't going to overtake him that lap. She was definitely going to overtake him this lap. She was all over him like a rash, and it was about time he did come in, as we still have Delanger out on the ultra soft tyres, so can't imagine he or Rick, also on the ultra soft tyres, would be out there much longer on them, but running 7 laps into the race on them so far.
No, almost Nismak there, pointing in the wrong direction on the exit turn 1. They tried to go down the inside of Delanger into turn 1, really lit up those rear tyres, and really did well to save the car from hitting the barriers, but he's lost quite a lot of time to head back towards Delanger. He's going to be 0.5 of a second, whereas he probably would have hoped to have been right up the rear exhaust pipe of the Red Bull and give himself a better opportunity as we head down the back straight into turn 12. But the Haas is still going to try and close up. Delanger tries to cover off the outside line. He locks up again down into turn 12, so Delanger possibly a little bit nervous down into turn 12.
Yeah, it's not the first time he's done that. I think he's either starting to probably struggle with these tyres now. He's not making some of the corners now. I would not be surprised if I see him coming into the pits on this lap. Nismak is really all over the back of that gearbox now as De Lange is coming into the pits.
Yeah, as you predict, De Lange coming in, so a lap after Scott came in, he's going to come in and take off those ultra soft tyres. That means it's the super soft tyre runners that are still out on grid. And if you look at the positions gained, Scopefielder and Speed Queen, looks like we might have a battle once again with these two. Currently sitting in first and second position, both having made 7 positions. Nismax also having made 7 positions off the start, so the top 3 equal amount of positions gained off the start. So these 3 done very nicely indeed to get themselves up into the podium positions. SJD doing very nicely as well in 4th position. Was saying in the paddock before that he wasn't particularly confident driving around here, but currently sitting in 4th position at the moment, so not a bad start. And Ruslan 000 is currently in 5th place, but I believe he will have that drive through, well, he must have had that drive through penalty, you'd think, to serve if he jumped the start.
Yeah, SJD has just picked up a 3-second time penalty as well, so that won't help him in his defence against Ruslan. But at the minute, Ruslan's 4 seconds behind, so he should have that covered from him at the minute. But they are now the pit stop phases are starting to come into effect. The drivers are now more spread out than what they were at the beginning, so hopefully eventually they'll start to see them coming back closer to each other.
Absolutely, and Scott getting the move done on Mike there just after the exit of turn 11. It actually probably helped out Mike ever so slightly as he managed to get a little bit of tow heading down the back straight, so Mike just tucked in behind the forced injury. I think he probably realised that Scott on those brand new soft tyres was going to have the grip and he was going to have the pace to stay ahead, but let the forced injury drag him down the back straight and make sure it keeps the gap out ever so slightly between him and De Lange, who will equally start to close up on Mike. I imagine that time will come down pretty quickly. It's been 8-9 laps on the super soft tyres for Mike, and as Rick comes into the pit lane, he's dropping down currently into 10th position at the moment, so Rick losing a bit of time. He comes out almost in line with Stifler 1980.
Yeah, he was the last of the ultra soft tyres, so he'll be definitely looking now to go to the end of the race on those soft tyres, looking like it could work out better for him later because he's made those ultra soft tyres last longer than Boy Better Know and De Lange, so later on in the race these soft tyres could benefit him more being younger than theirs.
Absolutely, and De Lange has absolutely annihilated that gap between himself and Mike in this first sector, and he's taken a second out of the Ferrari driver ahead, so the fresh soft rubber on that Red Bull doing absolute wonders. And with DRS, it looks like Mike is going to be absolutely sitting there with nothing to do as the Red Bull soar past him down into turn 12. Does he defend it? We know Mike is an incredibly hard defender. He's very difficult to pass, and De Lange makes it look easy as he goes down the inside at turn 12.
Yeah, there was no competition there. De Lange on the brand new soft tyres. He needed to make that move done if he was going to start to try and chase down Boy Better Know.
Absolutely. So De Lange now 3.5 seconds behind Scott in 7th position, but that's effective. Probably second and third, we'll see, depending on what the pace is of Speed Queen and Nismax when it comes to their pit strategy. Speed Queen currently bouncing around the just under 2 seconds behind Scopefielder. You can see it dropping ever so slightly as Tony picks up another 3-second time penalty there. But what we will do is we'll just go on board quickly with with Scopefielder, the race leader, as he comes down into turn 11, breaking down. As we see, it's a retirement for Tony Y there. It's a yellow in sector 3, so possibly an incident there for Tony Y that's caused a retirement for him on lap 11.
Yeah, I'm just currently watching Humberstone. He's chasing down Ruslan 000 at the minute. He's coming down the back straight now. He should have DRS. He's coming up to half a second. He's going to make the move now. Can he outbrake him? No, he can't. He's just a bit too far behind, but he is really putting the pressure now on Ruslan. Both of them are on 10-lap-old super soft tyres, so it's not like they're on different strategies. This is definitely for race position.
We've got a yellow in Sector 1 and Sector 2 at the moment. Quickly moves away, so we'll look to see if that comes up again. It's a pit stop for Scopefielder, so the race leader into the pit lane. Oh, Rusland all out of shape, and Humbostone deciding to come into the pit lane. So Humbostone is going to come off those super soft tyres and onto a set of softs. He's currently got a full battery worth of ERS behind him, so Humbostone well equipped to have a fast second stint in the McLaren.
Yeah, Boy Bettino on his soft tyres has just set the fastest lap of the race, so he is definitely putting the I can't even speak. They're definitely putting his foot down. That's a better way of saying it, easier for me to say, as he's just picked up a 3-second time penalty as well, which is unfortunate for him because there's a good battle around him at the minute, and that could really cost him a podium place.
Absolutely, and possibly putting the foot down ever so slightly too early there. Rusland 000 does very well to keep it in a straight line on the exit turn 11 there, get out on the curbs, hit the accelerator, and we've got a yellow in Sector 2 at the moment. We'll look to see if there's anyone wide.
Rick's just run wide, and I think he has he's hit the wall. There's a significant amount of damage on the left hand side of his front wing. He'll definitely have to come in. That front wing has had a big whack. I don't know if he lost it or what happened, but I seen him just coming off the wall as he had the accident. So that, unfortunate for him, will have to be another pit stop. Yeah,
unfortunate there for the Canadian driver Rick, who has lost, as you said, the entire front left end plate on that front wing, and it's in a circuit that's really dependent on downforce. It's pretty much suicidal to stay out there if you don't have your entirety of your front wing attached to your car. And currently the closest battle on track we've got at the moment is Nicky 995, who's currently sitting just behind Mike. DRS, he's going to have assistance into turn 1. It looks like the Toro Rosso is going to go up the inside of Mike, and he does. Nicky on slightly younger tyres than Mike, the 8-lap-old soft tyres, compared to Mike, who's running these super soft tyres as long as he can, I'd imagine, out there on 12-lap-old super softs.
Yeah, we've also still got Speed Queen and SJD at the first and second. They're also on 12-lap super soft tyres, so they're looking to try and eke out as much life of them as possible before jumping on the soft tyres. And can Speed Queen do it again? She's just snuck her way up there, hasn't she? She's got her way through there without any big dramas, and once again from 9th place was it she started, she's now currently in 1st place, so she's having a good race again.
Absolutely, Speed Queen showing why she is the current no assist champion, why she really is the benchmark for people to achieve, and when it comes to their pace in this league, and currently sitting on top of the pile with everyone else well behind her. She's got a 5.5 second lead back to SJD, and Scopefielder probably her nearest competitor. He's taken a very early undercut compared to the Ferrari driver, so we'll look to see. Scopefielder may have the benefit of the fresh tyres now, but it's towards the end of this race where he might start to suffer. But he does set that fastest lap as a 1:36.278, the latest fastest lap of the race, as SJD now into the pit lane to put on a set of the soft compounder tyre.
Yeah, and we've got to remember as well that Boy Better Know has a time penalty as well, so Scopefielder, with under 3 seconds behind him, will currently overtake him if it stays like this. So Boy Better Know really needs to put his foot down if he's going to keep that place ahead of Scopefielder. But Scopefielder seems to be bringing down the times. It's coming just under 2 seconds, just around 2 seconds at the minute. So that's going to be an interesting battle as the race unfolds.
Absolutely, Scopefielder, like we said, dominant around here, knows this track inside out, and Scott is going to have pretty hard task to keep the Swedish driver behind him. But he's definitely he's not one to mess with too much. Scott, he knows what to do. He knows where to put the car. He's not going to make it easy for the Renault driver to get past. So Scope's going to have to really pull out the stops if he's going to get past the Force India of Scott, who of course is currently in second position, having started second on the grid. So currently sitting where he started. So not a bad race so far for Scott. But of course, with Speed Queen 9.6 seconds up the road, he's going to hope to really kind of set some fast laps in now, as we'll go on board to Speed Queen 80 for a lap. As we see, there's SJD and Nikki are probably the closest at the moment. SJD got much fresher tyres, so he should start to stretch a lead out. Speed Queen now making her way into turn 2. Let's see her do this run through this complex turn 3 and 4. You can see getting slower in 6th gear, dropping down into 5th as we go through the right-hander. Now down into 4th on the entry at turn 7. Into 8 and 9, still in 4th gear. Does she drop down? No, keeps it in 4th. Now it's up into 5th, into 6th. Bouncing off into 7th, down into the tight turn 11, down into 2nd gear. Now quick shift up into 3rd and 4th, almost completely ignores 3rd gear, up into 6th. Now 7th, Nikki picks up the 3-second time penalty. Speed Queen heading down the back straight. 8th gear all the way, getting it up to almost off limiter, down into 3rd gear. 2nd gear for her, she gets the best run she can out. 3rd and 4th, 5th down, quick downshift back into 3rd gear, and you can see just how hard she's working on that gear paddle in the Ferrari cockpit, trying to get as much grip and as much drive out of these corners as possible. And guys, if you're wanting to learn this track, I suggest you sit on board with her, because this is exactly what you need to do to maintain your lead. Scott's sitting 6.3 seconds behind, but on 14 lap old softs, it looks like she's going to bail into the pit lane, and she does. So Speed Queen coming in, that was a pretty impressive lap for 14 lap old super softs.
Yeah, and it was the right time for her to come in as well. Scott in 2nd place, he'd been making significant time upon her. He really is now starting to put his foot down and try and get a lead over Scope, but Scope's not really having it at the minute. Scope's still staying within two and a half seconds of him, so he's keeping under 3 seconds, which he definitely will need come the end of the race.
Absolutely, and you see the Speed Queen dropping down to 7th position now, but look at the gaps that she's got on a tyre advantage over the guys around her. Nikki 995 ahead of her by not all that far. He's currently done 11 laps on those tyres, so SJD picking up another time penalty. So SJD racking them up ever so slightly. We know Nikki's got a couple of penalties. I don't believe I've seen any flash up for Nismax. Delanger's got 1. Schofield I don't think has any, and I believe Scott's also got 1 penalty. So Speed Queen, as long as she keeps it tidy, she's definitely well in the hunt for this race victory.
Oh, she definitely is, because like we alluded to earlier, it is really easy to pick up time penalties around here, as we keep seeing them flashing up at the bottom. And if Speed Queen keeps it on the track and stays off the time penalties, she could make up plenty of places, not only through overtaking with the fresh new tyres, but also through time penalties as well, and she could easily find herself either on the podium or winning this race come the end of the race.
So what do you do if you put yourself in Speed Queen's cockpit right now? Do you use these first few laps on the fresh tyres and really push and possibly take a little bit of life out of them, or do you just try and drive a consistent pace and just put the same lap times in lap upon lap and hope that your pace is slowly dragging you towards the guys in front? Is it a case of go hard and go early, or be consistent and possibly use it towards the end of the race?
I personally, for this track, for me it's dependent on the track, but for this track, me personally, I'd rather be consistent, because it is, like I say, it is really easy to pick up a time penalty, and you only have to push to say go for a fastest lap, and you run wide or cut a corner or anything like that, and you get a time penalty, and suddenly that advantage what you did have over your rivals ahead of you is gone, and you have to then look to make the overtake rather than just rely on time penalties, which for me, I'd rather have that safety net, knowing that I haven't got the time penalties, and if I can't overtake the guys in front, I know that they will still fall behind me. But it will be interesting to see how Speed Queen does this, because she is currently 4.5 seconds behind Nikki, and Nikki's already had 2 lots of time penalties, so that's a place already there for her. So for me, I would pace it out. I don't know what you would do, but for me, that's how I would do it.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I find this is one of the tracks that I find that it's quite difficult to get into a rhythm. So it's as Scope Fielder picks up a 3 second time penalty, as we say, they're finding that rhythm is it's very easy to get slightly upset through the first sector, and if you get one corner in the first sector wrong, you're offline for the next one, so you can really ruin your lap. So it's all about keeping it very consistent, and with Speed Queen, she's known for pretty much being Mrs. Consistent across majority of the races. You tend to you don't tend to find it outside of the top 5 all that often. Of course, she had a spell of 4 consecutive second place finishes last season. She's always in and around the top 5 positions if she's not on the podium. But yeah, just keep it quiet, keep it consistent, and like you said, Nikki, she'll know if she checks out from the comms of Jeff, he'll be able to find that she's got a penalty or he's got penalties. But I don't think she'll be too worried at the moment.
It's the same with SJD as well. He's picked up at least 6 seconds worth of time penalties, so SJD and Nikki would straight away boost her up to 5th place. It's whether she can then build that gap up and catch up alongside Nismak, who we don't believe has got a time penalty now. So that's her next target, so to speak, because she'll need to overtake him if she's going to have any chance of heading into the podium positions.
Absolutely. SJD starting to catch up to the back of Nismak's 7 now, so the Renault starting to give a little bit of hassle to the Haas driver in front, and Nismak's equally not too far behind the back of the Red Bull of De Lange 93, who's doing well to stay in 3rd position at the moment. Of course, he's done 10 laps on those soft tyres, so Nismax and SJD have the benefit of the newer tyres. Nikki equally still out there on those 14 lap old soft tyres, so you have to think Nikki's going to try and push these to the end, but they really will be pretty worn out and pretty tired by the end of the race, and I think he's probably going to find himself falling down the grid with Speed Queen and Humbo Stone starting to look like they're going to start catching the back of the Toro Rosso.
Yeah, he will do well to make them last for the rest of the race, and if he does, he will be a sitting duck for sure. I also think the likes of De Lange and Boy Bestado, that they're going to have to do some tyre saving towards the end of this race, because they're both on 10 and 11 laps of tyre wear, whereas Scopefielder and Nismak are on 7 and 6 lap tyre wear. So if they're not careful and they don't look after their tyres, they could come under threat towards the end of the race. As SJD is just overtaken Nismak.
Yeah, down the inside into turn 12, gets the move done there, so the Renault moving up into 4th place at the moment. Of course, SJD does have a few time penalties to contend with, so we'll need to stretch out a bit of a lead, but he's got 9 laps, or just over 9 laps to do it. So he's now on the hunt for the Dutch driver De Lange 93 ahead of him. The two, of course, both Tier 2 drivers. Of course, we do have a Tier 1 and a Tier 2 championship as part of our no assist championship. The Tier 1 drivers use fully no assist whatsoever. Tier 2 will use racing line in some races, maybe not in all races. We'll definitely, as we got Nikki retiring from the session then, so we'll look to see where has that gone wrong for him. He was running in 7th position. Looks like it might be in the pit lane. Looked like it might be.
Yeah, I was just saying it was just before the final corner. I'm not sure where it was, but as I flicked over it, the camera angle was pointing at there, so I'm not sure exactly what happened there.
Yeah, well, let's see. Rick's going to be the next one to pass him. The tyre has changed over for the Toro Rosso driver, so I would believe it may be that he's going to retire. You'll see a Toro Rosso flash past in a second at the top of the hill, possibly retiring, and it's so unfortunate there for Nikki 9095 in a Toro Rosso. Did have that incident with Speed Queen earlier on, a little bit too bold into the overtake and had a very, very early pit stop. So not the greatest start for pre-season for Nikki, who we know can be quick on his day.
Yeah, I always say I like to get these mistakes out of the way in pre-season. I'd rather have them now rather than during the league. For me, this track, it is, like we keep saying, it's super tricky around here, and one mistake and you could be out of the race. Yeah, it's unfortunate for Nicky, but he did have a few time penalties as well, Kenway. So I don't think it would have been his race today anyway.
No, it's just looking there at the guys at the top. You've got Schofield. He's got that gap down to 1.1 second now. So he's taken around 0.8 of a second out of Scott over the last few laps. It's bouncing around the 1 to 1.2 second mark at the moment. So he's definitely starting to get within striking range of the Force India. So Schofielder really starting to look at the race victory. He's got 4 lap fresher tyres compared to the Force India ahead of him, so he's definitely got the advantage. And with 8 laps, or with 7.5 laps left to go in the race, we could be coming down to a pretty decent fight with possibly 4 or 5 laps left to go.
Yeah, Schofield's going to have to make the move as well, isn't he, now, because they're both on 3-second time penalties. So it's not like he can rely on the 3 seconds that Scott has picked up. So that's probably why he's starting to make a move on him now, because he probably realises that if he doesn't make a move now or within the next few laps, he's going to run out of laps, and then it'll be too late for him. But I can't see. It's tough. It's tough because Boy Better Know keeps that distance, doesn't he? He's making sure that DRS range is out of reach of Scope at the minute. So we shall see how it pans out.
Absolutely. Stifler picking up enough 3-second time penalties, currently sitting last in the running at the moment. Of course, Onyx Mur did retire earlier in the session, so Stifler, the last of the current runners, sitting in 11th place, so not the happiest of returns for the McLaren driver. He will possibly look to come back next week in Hungary and get a more positive result. SJD now 0.7 of a second behind De Lange, so De Lange possibly making a mistake earlier in the lap, and it's allowed the Red Bull to really close up to the rear end of him, and he's going to be within DRS.
God, sorry.
No, just as I say that, SJD kicking the rear end of that Renault out, and he's going to lose a whole heap of time, but I think he, by 0.03 of a second, may have just got himself within DRS of the Red Bull. But yeah, really scary moment there for the Renault.
Yeah, he did well to keep that on the track there. I genuinely thought he was in the barrier. Yes, he has got DRS, so De Lange is going to be under threat here. What would you do now if you knew SJD was behind you but had more time penalties? Would you put the fight up and allow Nismak possibly to come back at you, or would you allow SGD to co-pass and try and stick with him and see out the race, knowing you can overtake him in time?
It's tricky to being in De Lange's position. Obviously, he's got 5 lap older tyres, so I think at this point he'll probably be thinking that SJD's got the advantage, so whether he should let him past and try and let the Renault drag him around the track. But equally then, having as you know, me and you know, De Lange, he's not one to give up a position particularly easy. He want to stay on that podium, so I think SJD's got a bit of a battle on his hands if he wants to get past the Dutchman.
Yes, he definitely has. But if he could keep with him now through this section and get the DRS, I can't see how De Lange's going to be able to keep him behind him, unfortunately, because his tyres are so much newer than De Lange's. I think he'll end up becoming a sitting duck down that back straight.
Yeah,
it's just then can he keep with him for the rest of the lap and hopefully pick up DRS on the following lap? It's going to be tricky.
Yeah, absolutely. With 5 laps left to go, that is the case. The Renault is going to be right into the rear end of the Red Bull heading down the back straight, and the manufacturer looks like it's going to go past the customer of Red Bull going around the outside. De Lange is going to go defensive. Is he going to keep the position? He does, so it's a good tidy apex there for De Lange, and the Red Bull doesn't quite let SJD pass. But what this will do is these two fights, it will start to let Nismax close up to the rear end of him, and Speed Queen equally, she's managing to pull that time down. It was 4 seconds about 2.5 laps ago. It's now 1.5 seconds back to Nismax. So Speed Queen starting to get moves done to move back up towards the top 3, but with just 4 laps left to go, she's got a pretty hard task to get. Was looking around 4 to 6 seconds if she's going to get a podium.
Yeah, I think it might just be too much for Speed Queen now to get a podium, but if De Lange keeps up this strong defence of SJD, it could quite easily bring Nismak and Speed Queen back into this battle, and we could have on the last lap or 2 a good 4-way battle for 3rd place.
Both Renaults at the moment under half a second behind the cars in front of them, so it looks like we might have a double Renault overtake on this lap. Schofield is 0.6 of a second behind Scott for the race lead. He's going to have DRS heading down the back straight, and equally SJD is 0.4 of a second behind De Lange, so the 2 DRS wide open on both, but Schofield are not getting anywhere close to the back end of that Force India, so the Force India straight line there was absolutely outworldly, and managed to keep the DRS assisted Renault behind him. Scott just about locking the front left up there, but as he goes around into turn 16, 17 and 18 now, around that sweeping right-hander, he's doing well to keep Schofielder behind him, but 0.6 of a second. Schofielder needs to get this move done soon.
He does, and SJD didn't make the move on De Lange either just then. De Lange made another good defensive move and kept him behind him, but I've noticed Nismak isn't actually making any ground on SJD. It's the reverse. Speed Queen is now less than half a second behind Nismak, so Nismak is losing time to SJD, and Speed Queen is looking strong.
Yeah, she's got DRS and she looks to the inside into turn 1, and the Ferrari is going to go past the Ferrari powered Haas, and there you go, move done, job done for Speed Queen. She's back into the top 5, and it's a bit of gap now between her and SJD, so she's really got to get a shift on if she's going to get close to the Renault in front, but she's got much younger tyres compared to De Lange, who's going to be holding up SJD, so this is where SJD needs to clear that Red Bull.
Yes, he does, and he's just about to come into DRS zone again. Can he now on this lap? He's much closer than he was last lap to De Lange. Can he get the move done? De Lange made 2 good defensive moves last time out. Can he do it again this time? He's going to go defensive again here, De Lange, and the side by side. Oh, and De Lange once again has made a good defensive move. He's doing very well here to keep SJD behind him, and can he do it for the last 3 laps?
Absolutely, De Lange weaving from left to right down the back straight. Of course, it was fine. It wasn't an overtaking move at the time, so he's just trying to break that toe. Did manage to keep SJD behind, and equally Schofield are now looking very close to the rear end of the Force India as they head up the hill towards turn 1. Doesn't look like he's going to be making a move. He still stays behind him, so Scott's still keeping the race lead at the moment, but with lap 26, 27 and 28 to go, so we've got 3 laps left in this Invictus Racing League pre-season 1 here at the Circuit of the Americas. Scott is leading by 0.4 of a second to Schofielder, so we've got the British driver holding back the Swedish driver just about. Force India versus Renault, and then equally you've got a battle on for 3rd position between De Lange 93 and SJD 1988, so both Renaults looking at a podium position.
Yes, Scopes half a second now. He's going into DRS zone now. I think he looks a bit too far away again. He is too far away. He needs to be like within 0.3 as he's approaching DRS to have any chance down that back straight, because Scott is defending very well, like De Lange is on SJD, and covering both of these Renaults off down into the braking zones. We've got a yellow flag in sector 2.
Yeah,
we did have.
Quickly moved off there from the yellow flag, but Schofielder, it looks like the both cars in first and second must have completely different setups on, because that Force India is absolutely mighty in a straight line, whereas the Renault really strong in the slower corners. That's where he makes up the time on the Force India, so Scott using the advantage of the Force India's straight line speed compared to the Renault at the moment. So if Schofield are going to get this done, he needs to be really up behind the Force India heading possibly into the breaking point at turn 11. Apart from
Yeah, I
that,
agree.
he's really... Oh, and there's that 3-second time
Oh,
penalty.
that's probably just costing the race now. That's a shame for him, really, because I was hoping we were going to have a really good battle towards the end there, but Scott, I think, is only on a 3-second time penalty. That's put Schofield on a 6-second time penalty, so it's pretty much gifted the race now to Scott.
Yeah, so... But of course, Scott won't know that. He'll know that he might have known that there's one penalty, but he's not going to get an update anytime soon. So he's not going to want to let that Renault pass any time in the near future. So, but you can see 0.7 of a second. So Schofield are dropping back ever so slightly, and Scott doing very nicely on 19-lap old soft tyres to keep Schofield behind. Of course, the tyres on both cars will both be scrubbed, and there's the move for SJD.
Yeah. Oh, they're still side by side, and this is a great battle. Can he hold it, SJD?
He's going to have the inside for the next corner at turn 15 and 16, and De Lange does get the move done. He makes sure that that SJD can't come back at him, and it's a great swapping of positions between these two. And De Lange's going to come on to the final lap, and what they've got to watch out for with those two battling is Speed Queen. She's really starting to catch up behind. She's now 1.3 seconds behind. She's going to be just outside of DRS, but we're heading on to the final lap now. It's a less than a second gap between first and second, and less than a second gap between third and fourth, so battles all the way down to the wire throughout the grid here.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting, because if De Lange holds SJ up any more, Speed Queen could pick up a DRS, and who knows, we could have a three-way battle for third here. Could. But at the minute, Speed Queen's just outside the DRS zone of SJD, as Scope now is down the back straight, only half a second behind Scott.
Yeah, heading down the back straight now. Scope, DRS wide open, but he's still not close enough to get that move. He's starting to close up. He's going to make possibly a lunge into turn 12. There's almost contact between the two. Schofield are just not quite close enough to get it done, but he's going to be all over. It's a dive down there into turn 13. Doesn't quite get the move done. He's all over the rear end of that Force India, who's just going to want to get it home, but you can see how close they're going to be. Speed Queen is within a second as SJD's got the move done on De Lange, so SJD is up into third position at the moment, but he's looking like he's probably going to drop back after penalties. But Scott and Schofield are going to go side by side into the final corner, still nose to tail. It's going to be about 0.2 of a second between the two, and Scott is going to take the race victory. Schofield, unfortunately, is going to come in second after that penalty took him down. SJD is leading the final three across, and De Lange is going to just about hold off Speed Queen 80. We'll see what happens now. SJD does drop down. De Lange takes that podium position, so fantastic result there for the Dutchman to pick up a pre-season podium. Speed Queen's up into fourth, and SJD is tumbling down the order. He's dropped down behind Nismax and Humbo Stone, so SJD dropping down from a third place on track finish down to seventh. Rusland 000 is going to be the next one across the line, so it's a good finish there for Speed Queen and Nismax, who both make up some good time for some good places since the start, up into fourth and fifth respectively. Humberstone is in sixth, SJD, like I said, is in seventh. Rusland is coming across the round to the final corner now. He's going to come across start-finish line and finish around 40 seconds down on the others, and he's going to come in eighth, and equally Rick follows him in ninth. And then still out on track, we've got Mike in the Ferrari. He's going to finish in the final points paying position in 10th place, and Stifler 1980 will be coming home in 11th position.
Yeah, SJD on the final lap there, when he was overtaking De Lange, he picked up another time penalty on the final lap. That's probably what pushed him further down the grid, unfortunately for him. But it was a great battle between him and De Lange, and it nearly brought Speed Queen in to just steal a place off them. Absolutely superb race there, and really well done for Scott, who takes
the first of the pre-season races for the Force India team. So congratulations to Boy Better Know SB for the race victory tonight, and it's a great way to start off season 7 for him. As you can see there, it's a 3-second time penalty, but he does take that lead and does take the race victory. Scott in first, with Scopefielder in second, Delanger no penalties in third, holding off Speed Queen by 0.4 of a second. She comes in fourth. Nizmax is in fifth, Humberstone is in sixth, SJD seventh, Rick back in 8th, with Ruslan 000 in 9th, Mike in 10th, Stiffer 1980 in 11th, and we lost Onyx Mur, Nikki and Tony Y earlier in the session. So we'll just check the incident file for you all. So Sab, what's your takeaway from that race? What do you think? Was it a great race for Scott, or is there anyone else that you think would have your driver of the day?
I would give it Scott in the end. He drove a good race. He defended well against Scope, and took advantage of. Onyx looked good, and I thought, I'll be honest, he was going to take the win, but Scott took advantage of that collision between Scope and Onyx, and Scott went into the lead and didn't really look back. Really, he defended well, and thoroughly deserved the race win in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott definitely good value for his victory there. Starts off season 7 pre-season race 1 with a victory in America, and of course next week we head over to Europe and we go to Hungary. Another it's a very strange circuit to drive around. It almost like a street circuit feel, very tricky to overtake, so strategy will play a huge part in the guys there when they go for the final pre-race before, or pre-season race before we head into the main season. So what do you reckon heading into Hungary? Is there anyone that's really stood out that might possibly be a challenger, or do you think it's still all out in the open for guys to really set the pace?
I still do think it's still all out in the open. Yeah, the front two, Scope and Scott, definitely stood out for me. They do look very quick, but it's hard to judge based on that race. I think once we head into Hungary, where it's a completely different race, a different circuit, different challenge, it might start to show more who's going to be challenging at the front.
Absolutely. So that is it for tonight, guys. Of course, that was the first pre-season race. That was the No Assist Championship. But tomorrow night, we have Performance 1 and Performance 2, both at Kota. And then equally on Wednesday, you have the return of F1, F2 and F3. Almost full grids for the majority of the leagues throughout the week. So Invictus getting bigger and bigger each season. So make sure you check out the social media streams at Invictus RL on Twitter, where you'll find all the links for all the streams, what times and where to catch up with them. If you want to check out the website, it's invictusracingleague.com. You can find the league tables, you can find the sign up pages if you want to get involved. If you got any final words to say for this, the stream, Sab, it's been great having you with me.
Yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and once again, the No Assist racing, even though we're on equal, it's only pre-season, it's been fantastic to watch, and I'm delighted to be part of it this season.
Yeah, it's absolutely superb having you here. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, guys, it's at GT_driving2. Sab, have you got a Twitter handle you'd like to pass out?
It's just my name, at Alan Sabatino. Simple.
Super. So thanks for joining us, guys. Hopefully we will see you in Hungary next week for the final pre-race of pre-season race of the No Assist Championship. And for tonight, thanks for joining me, and see you next week.